Hello, everyone. This is Sinema77, horror and cult film lover. I'm back with another movie review. Tonight, we're going to talk about this one's kind of an odd mix. It's a sexy thriller. It's a true crime film. It's a horror film. It's kind of a little taste of everything. And unfortunately, the author Jack Ketchum, he's passed away now. It was a year or two ago. He passed away, I believe, from leukemia, and that's really sad to say. He was a good writer, and he wrote really good books and off season, The Girl Next Door, stuff like that. And yeah, it's really sad that he's gone. Just very talented writer. And but anyway, tonight we're going to talk about his movie, The Lost. This movie came out in 2006, and this movie stars Mark Center, um, Robin Sidney, Shay Astar, Michael Bowen, who was well, like Mark Center. You remember him from like Starry Eyes and Tales of Halloween and so many other things. Shay Astar. I think for most people, everybody's always going to remember her as the little girl from Ernest Scared Stupid. And then like Michael Bowen, we remember him from Tarantino movies like you know. Kill Bill and Jackie Brown, and also too the late Ed Lauder. He was in this movie. Everybody remembers him from like Cujo movies like that. It's like this movie really does have a good cast. You have a cameo from Dee Wallace is in this movie. Um, yeah, I mean you got like a lot of really good talented people in this movie for a low budget horror, true crime kind of sex film, things like that. This kind of really works. This is you know the movie's written and directed by Chris Severson. He was a buddy of Lucky McKee's, and the two of them they started like trying to get into filmmaking together. And they in their early days, before either one of them got into filmmaking, they did a shot on video movie called All Cheerleaders Die, which is a little bit different. But as when they finally became filmmakers and stuff, they remade the movie, and they both wrote and directed it and things like that. But this movie here, Chris Severson wrote and directed it, and Lucky McKee is actually a producer on the movie. And yeah, this is a pretty entertaining movie. It's definitely if you want something disturbing and something kind of gets into your skin, then yeah, you're gonna enjoy this movie. The way the movie starts off, we're introduced to this character. Basically, his name's Ray Pye, and played by Mark Center. And Mark Center, I think he did a good job in this movie. I think there are people probably going to be like, they're not going to care for his performance. I think he's going to be kind of like split down the middle. Either you love him or you hate him. And I think he did a good job. And but his character is very narcissistic. His character is very like snobby and everything else. And but the movie opens like he's walking in the woods and everything else, and he's heading towards a an outhouse, because he needs to use the bathroom, and he comes across Erin Brown, who we all, well, a lot of us would remember as Misty Mundae, and she steps out of the outhouse, and this is her there, but yeah, she steps out of the outhouse and she's completely naked, so full frontally naked and stuff. And so there's kind of this awkward moment between the two of them, and she just kind of smiles, and he says, "Do you have a cigarette?" And she just kind of laughs, it's like, "Yeah, I guess not." And she's just like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. My friend and I, we thought we were the only ones here, and we didn't know anybody else was up here." He's like, "Oh, that's okay. I just need to use the restroom and stuff." So she goes off, and he starts watching her, and so he sees her kind of like going back to her camp, and she's with Ruby LaRocca, I'm sorry, who, yeah, she's known for doing some of these. This is her right here. This is Ruby LaRocca, and yeah, she's known for her and Misty Mundae. The two of them, they were known for doing these. Um, they were known for doing a lot of these seduction cinema movies back in the day and everything. Well, so anyway, so Ray, he sees the two of them, and he sees, like they're, sunbathing naked and stuff like that. And she goes and tells, "Yeah, we're not the only ones here. You need to get dressed and stuff." So she does. And so Ray, he goes back where he's hanging with his buddy Tim and his girlfriend. and played by Shay Astar, and he's telling them about, wow, you wouldn't believe how hot these girls are and everything else, and their perfect bodies, perfect faces, and all this other kind of stuff. Well, his girlfriend, obviously, she's not really digging this whole thing, but Tim's like, hey, where are these girls? I want to see them and all this stuff. So they're hanging around and they're kind of watching these girls. Night falls, and Ruby LaRocca and Misty Mundae, Erin Brown, both of them, they do a really good job. They get a good dialogue scene between the two of them, and we find out that Ruby LaRocca's character took Erin's character on. They took him on. She took her on a camping trip and stuff. Because she broke up with her boyfriend. They had a bad relationship and everything else. So they broke up. So she took her, camping to kind of, get her mind off of things and stuff like that. And, Erin's character, she's talking about like, why do I do this? Why do I let myself get her and things like that? And so, so they're hugging and all this stuff. Well, Ray sees this and he interprets it to automatically mean that they're lesbians, and he's going on and on about he can't stand lesbians and all this other kind of stuff. And so, Tim is like, dude, you don't know that they're lesbians. Like, they hug, girls hug. That doesn't automatically mean they're lesbians and things like that. But Ray is pretty much convinced that yes, they are lesbians, and they need to, have a stop put to it and everything else. So it turns out Ray has a hunting rifle, and he ends up shooting them down. Ruby LaRocca gets shot in the neck, and or no, she gets shot in the chest or the something. I'm sorry, but and you know, Erin, she gets shot in the neck and stuff. And so, she sees Ruby laying on the ground, and she's like trying to help her up, and she sees somebody coming up. Well, she accidentally peeks behind a tree, and she gets shot in the eye, and so pretty much she's dead. And so, Ray, his girlfriend, she's freaking out. Tim, he's freaking out and stuff. And so he's all like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's like, just go back to my place, get the shovel, get this and that. We'll tear down the campsite and all this stuff. We'll bury the bodies. Nobody will know anything that happened and stuff. So they go off. And so while he's waiting for them, he's like eating their food and all this other kind of stuff. And so he's kind of like, getting things going as far as like tearing down their campsite and stuff. And then he realizes like, hey, wait a minute, something's wrong. And then he notices Ruby LaRocca, her character is missing. And so he's looking around, and, she's stumbling through the woods and everything else. And she's barely able to flag down a car and get away and stuff. And then, so then, like we fade to black, and then some time passes. And then, we're in a bar, and Jack Ketchum himself actually played the bartender. And so Ed Lauder's character, we find out that, he's a detective. Well, he's a retired detective, but Michael Bowen, he's a detective. And the two of them are talking. And basically they're saying in the scene that Ruby LaRocca's character, has died. They got her to the hospital, but, it's like, she was too far off. And, they did, she was like in a coma and things like that. And she didn't make it. She passed away and stuff. And so, they're trying to talk and everything else. And so anyway, so meanwhile, while, this is going on, at one point, Michael Bowen, he goes to visit, what turns out to be Ruby LaRocca, her character's mother, which is played by Dee Wallace. And so, and Dee Wallace has a great moment in the movie and things. And then, we kind of see where like our three kids from the beginning of the movie are. Ray, we find out that, he works at a motel with his mother, and that, he's there to do like maintenance. He's there to like, unclog the toilets and things like that. And then, I believe I believe her character's name is Jennifer. And, she's staying there with him and stuff, and they're just hanging out, doing whatever and all this stuff. Well, at one point he tells, Tim to take her to the baseball field for whatever reason. They're just hanging out, and they're all like, well, where's Ray? We're waiting for Ray and all this other kind of stuff and all this. And so, Ray finally shows up, and he's talking about like, yeah, I was out, I was getting beers and doing all this other kind of stuff. And, I met this girl and everything else. And so the girl is actually played by Robin Sidney. The girl is played by Robin Sidney, and Turns out he's very much infatuated with her, and she looks, so gorgeous and everything else in this movie. And so of course, Jennifer, she's not really keen on this idea, but Ray, he starts, spending a lot of time, wanting to hang out with her and things like that. And then, here's the problem: the movie does kind of slow down, and it goes into more dramatic territory. And it's like you got Ray trying to get with her character there, and um, at one point there's a girl. Her name is Sally, and she's actually, I mean, the girl's barely like 18, 19 years old. She's about ready to go to college and stuff. And her character is dating Ed Lauter's character, and there's even a scene where her and Michael Bowen are talking, and he's talking about like a. As a matter of fact, Ed Lauter's character, his name is Ed in the movie, and so he's talking to, um, he's talking to her, and he's all like, you do know that he's like, I'm not making any judgments, but you do know, I know you're like 19 or 20. You do realize that Ed's, 60. You know that, right? She just kind of laughs it off and stuff, and he's going to the, like Michael Bowen, his character is going to, talk to Ray about, yeah, it's like, yeah, still kind of curious about where you guys were that night, the murder and all this other kind of stuff. Well, Ray's mother hires Sally to work there as a housekeeper, they call him like chambermaid or whatever at the hotel. Well, Ray is instantly infatuated with her, and he wants to hook up with her. He's like always trying to like get her to go out with him. She doesn't want anything to do with him. And she's like, look, I already have a boyfriend. Leave me alone. I'm just here to do my job and all this other kind of stuff. And, he gets kind of pissy with her and stuff like that. And she's like, you know what? No, I'm quitting and all this stuff. So she doesn't work there anymore. Well, in the meantime, he's working on her character, and they go out on a date. And at one point, they're playing games. And this is a very popular shot of her from the movie. You see this on a lot of the advertisement. Robin there showing the cleavage and stuff. But, well, so anyway, so they're out hanging out and all this, and he's like trying to figure out ways to try to impress her. He like they go out on a date. She takes him to this restaurant where she talks about like she had problems. Her mother had psychiatric problems, and she ended up in a hospital. And so they're sitting there talking, and he's Ray's talking about like some of the things from his childhood, and she's all like, you pick where we go. So he takes her to kind of like a fair, or carnival, and they're playing games, having fun, but you could tell she's kind of getting bored with it. And so he's all like, what do we do now? And so it's like, well, let's go out to the lake and stuff. So they go out to the lake, and pretty much I think it's supposed to be the same lake where he shot the two girls. And so they're hanging out, and or he's telling her like, go ahead and get in the water and all this stuff, don't be chicken and all this. And so she takes off her clothes, and she looks, just stunningly sexy, gorgeous, and looks beautiful and everything else. And, so she's like, yeah, I'm not really into this idea of going into the water. She's like, how about I just let you fuck me? And so he's all like, what? And she's all like, you can go ahead and just fuck me if you want. So he does, and, and it's over like in just a couple of seconds. He gets too excited, and just, it's over fast. And so he's apologizing, saying, "Yeah, that was kind of, that was kind of quick." And she's like, "No, I've had quicker." And so, he's kind of talking and stuff, and he decides he really wants to like really impress her. And so he finally, breaks down and tells her, "You know what? I've killed people." And so she's like, "You did what now?" And says, "Yeah, I killed people." And so he takes her home, and they're sitting in her house, and he explains, like what he did, and he shot the girls and hid the bodies and all this other kind of stuff. And she seems like she's kind of intrigued, and it looks like she's getting ready to make out with him. But then the phone rings, and it turns out it's her father. And he tells her that her mother has died, and needs her to go and be with them, for the funeral and things like that. So she's upset. And so she basically tells Ray, we can't do this. You need to go away and stuff. So he goes away. And so, meanwhile, like other things are going down, like Tim and Jennifer, they're having sex and stuff. And, he's all like, I'd like for us to continue. She's like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then at one point she's with Ray, and, he even gives her a wedding ring. Turns out he's got like a bunch of, engagement rings and stuff that he's got for all his different girlfriends and stuff like that. So he gives her one, everything else, and tells her it's real diamond and all this other kind of stuff. And so she believes it, and she wants to believe it, and she wants to believe that they're going to get married and have a good life and all this other kind of stuff. Meanwhile, it's getting closer and closer. The two detectives, they're kind of getting closer to Ray, and we see Sally and Ed. They're having kind of like relationship drama because he feels disgusted for being an old man who's going after a young girl, and he feels like she has this great future ahead of her and she's wasting time with him, and but she doesn't feel that way. She feels that, like, she's enjoying the time that she's being with him and things like that. And so they get into a fight, and ultimately, he calls her up and he tells her that, it's like, I really care about you, and I know you're getting ready to go to college, and I want us to spend as much time together as we can and everything else. And so you know but we're finally reaching a breaking point because Michael Bowen's character goes and talks to Jennifer, and he tells her, like, yeah, that he sees the ring and is, oh, did Ray give that to you? He's like, yeah, that's fake, right? That's not a real engagement ring and stuff like that. But so anyway, so she finds out that, yeah, the ring is fake, and he's been lying to her all this time. And so then Robin Sidney, her character, comes back, and he's trying to hook up with her again, and she's telling him she doesn't want anything to do with him. And she's kind of like, the fact that he told her that he murdered somebody, that kind of like really put her off, and she's not interested in him and all this other kind of stuff. And so he's, Ray, he's losing control. He's doing a lot of drugs. You got a cameo from Eddie Steeples, who, we all remember as Crabman on My Name is Earl. And there's a scene where, he goes to buy drugs, and, he's just really getting wigged out of his mind, and he's talking about killing and all this other kind of stuff. And, and everything. And nobody's impressed. He's like trying to say it to impress people, but nobody's impressed with him and stuff like that. And, just Ray, he's getting more and more out of his mind. And, it's like Robin Sidney's character turns him down, and he's not digging that. And, like the Sally character, she's not, she doesn't want anything to do with him. She never did. And, then Jennifer, she comes to him, and, she throws a ring at him, tells him, fuck you, and all this stuff. And, she admits, I've been fucking Tim and all this other kind of stuff. And so he goes to Tim and everything else. And we come to find out that one way that Ray makes a lot of money is he sells drugs. He's been selling like hash and stuff. But the thing is like whenever he gets it, he gives it to Tim to hold for him. And Tim's always like shaving a little bit off, and they're smoking hash and everything else. So he goes, he's like, he puts it on the way he sees it, he's like, you've been shaving this shit, huh? I know you have. And so, he's freaking out and everything else. And he's like, I am sick of you motherfuckers. And, and all this. The drugs and everything else are really taking a toll on him and stuff like that. And he's, like, he's about ready to beat on Jennifer. His mother puts a stop to it and everything. So yeah, now we're getting into the climax of the movie. Ray just decides he's had enough. He goes, he gets a shotgun, he gets a pistol and everything. He shoots his own mother. She's just sitting in the motel office because they run the motel. So he goes in there, he just shoots the mother. Then he goes and he gets in his car, he's driving around and stuff. He goes to this kind of like a Sonic, kind of a drive-in restaurant stuff. And Sally, she's, having lunch with her friend there. He goes up, shoots the friend in the face, and Sally jumps out of the car, and, so he gets the gun on her. And this waitress, played by Katie Cassidy, from the, like Black Christmas remake and stuff like that, she's in there for a second. There's a sex scene between her and Ray. But he takes Sally, makes her get in the trunk of the car. Then he goes over to Jennifer's house, and, he walks in, he shoots Jennifer's parents, and grabs her, takes her off, and then, goes and Robin Sidney's character goes and grabs her, and then, so they're taking him off. And so now you got the two detectives, Ed and Michael Bowen's character. They're trying to figure out what's going on, where is she, all this other kind of stuff. So, they get Tim in there, and he's like so they're all trying to figure out, like, where would they go and all this other kind of stuff. Well, it's revealed earlier in the movie, Ray talks about, there was a place that he and Tim raided where they went in there and they kind of vandalized the place and everything else. And it belonged to, I think it belonged to somebody in Tim's family or whatever, but they made it look like a break-in and stuff. So he decides he's going to take his girlfriends, in quotes, girlfriends there. And They go into this place, and it turns out that there's a man with his pregnant wife. Turns out they bought the property and the house and everything else. And Ray, he's flipping out because of all the drugs he's on and everything else. And so, you know, uh, so he's like talking. He starts going on about talking about the murder of Sharon Tate because there's a pregnant woman there, and he's talking about like how Sharon Tate was pregnant, and how Susan Atkins wanted to cut out the baby. So you kind of see where all this is heading, and it's not going to be good. And so he's like telling this guy to tie him all up and everything. He doesn't want to do it, so Ray shoots him and everything else. And then Ray goes and gets a knife. He stabs the woman like in the shoulder, and she falls down. And so he takes the knife and basically disembowels her, to cut out the baby and stuff like that. And it's like the girls are absolutely horrified. And At one point, Robin Cindy, her character, tries to get away. He shoots her down. But he shoots her down, but she's still alive. And Shay Astar's character, Jennifer, she can't believe all this, what she's seeing and stuff like that. And at one point, Sally, she gets like this porcelain thing. I forgot exactly, like a statue or whatever. She hits Ray in the head with it and tries to kill him, but she doesn't. But he's got like a big gash in his head. He's got blood pouring down his face and stuff. And so he's, telling her, he's telling her to say things, like say, I'm a dirty little whore and all this other kind of stuff. And, and everything else. And so he's like, let me see your tits and all this other kind of stuff. And so, so she shows him and everything else is like, he's trying to jerk off and stuff like that. And so she gives him a good kick to the nuts and everything. And she tries to make it for the door. And just as she's about ready to reach the door, that's when Michael Bowen and Ed Lauter's characters come in, and because they just realize they realize like where Ray would have taken the girls and all that stuff. And so she's trying to get to the door. He shoots her, and unfortunately she's dead. So Ed Lauter, he's basically taking care of her. Michael Bowen, he goes and just starts beating, and they get into this screaming match and everything else, and that's where pretty much the movie ends. But this movie, it's that's kind of the thing. The movie, it really has a very strong first and third act. The second act, it does kind of meander a bit. So, because you're kind of dealing with like all this, kind of relationship drama. You're dealing with Ray trying to impress Robin Sidney's character, trying to get her to be his girlfriend, but at the same time, he's trying to pick up on Sally, even though Sally has no interest in him. And you're dealing with the relationship between Sally and Ed, and you got the stuff going on between Ray and Jennifer. So I mean, there's a lot of dramatic, kind of almost soap opera relationship things going on here. But so yeah, the second act kind of drags a little bit. You got to kind of get through some stuff, but the third act really does pack a punch when it gets going. But overall, yeah, I think this movie's good. I think you have a good cast. I think everybody did a pretty good job. Um, like I said, Mark Center, I think he did a good job as Ray. But yeah, I think some people, you're either going to love him or hate him as an actor. But I think he did a good job. I think he was really well cast. Um, but yeah, overall, I say give this movie a watch. It's definitely unique. It's interesting. Jack Ketchum, may he rest in peace. He was a good writer. He wrote a lot of good books. The movie really does try to follow the book as much as it possibly can, and even on the commentary on the DVD, there's a commentary with Jack Ketchum where he talked about how like Chris Severson really like did his absolute best to try to follow the book as much as he could, but Ketchum himself had to be the one to explain. It was like sometimes you gotta cut some stuff. You can't always squeeze everything from the book into there. Once in a while you're gonna have to make a change. It's just the nature of the game. So. But anyway, yeah, I say go ahead and give it a shot. If you want a movie that's disturbing, got some sexiness to it, you got beautiful women in here. Robin Sidney's gorgeous, Katie Cassidy, Erin Brown, Ruby LaRocca, Shay Astar. You got a lot of really, really beautiful girls in this movie, so that's nice to see. Really cool. So, but anyway, yeah, I said go ahead and give it a watch. I think this movie's pretty good. So anyway, that was it. We talked about Jack Ketchum's The Lost. If anybody took the time to watch this video, I thank you for doing it, and I appreciate you for doing it. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. I do reviews. I do, shelf by shelf of my movie collection. haul videos, all kinds of stuff. So I'm always trying to look for more interesting things to add to the channel. So hopefully I'll come up with some good ideas, something that would really interest people. But anyway, though, thank you again. I can't thank you enough for watching it. Take care and have a good day. I'll see you later. Bye bye.